Hello, everybody. I'm gonna continue talking about the theory of harmony by Arnold Schoenberg. Um, as you can see now, I chose a real picture of Arnold Schoenberg instead of a self-portrait. So this is the real Arnold Schoenberg, not a painting. I'm gonna start with the major mode and the diatonic modes, specifically with a subject that is called spacing the chords. Okay, so let's start with chord connections. Um, in this chapter, Arnold Schoenberg talks about how to connect chords in a proper way and explains that many chord connections do not arise purely from harmony, but have their origins in melody. For example, we have um, we have these excerpts right here, and I'm gonna play it on the piano. Right, I played all the block chords, the image that is on the left. Now I'm gonna play it with all the melody. Right, so this is a common harmonic connections in the piano language, which have a melodic origin, um, and it looks like if they were harmonic masses followed by others, with many jumps between the chords. But actually, it contains the most important principle of the harmonic connection, which is a good harmonic progression. So therefore, this particular type of connection is not affected in a negative way, since its origins come from the melody and not from the harmony. So this is a different approach to harmony. Why this is a good progression? Because we are playing the one, going to the fourth, going to the sixth, going to the second degree, going to the five. And then we should resolve to one, right? This will be an analysis. But it doesn't matter if we are jumping, because this derives from a melodic perspective, not from a harmonic perspective. It's like if we were harmonizing the melody. Now let's move to this slide. This is the four-part writing. The four-part writing is one of the most used combinations for the voice, and in which they are categorized into soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Through this natural combination of voices, we will have an acoustic uniformity that will help us to distinguish each of the voices while we have a chord. Okay. Something very important to consider is the range of the voices, because this is gonna serve us as our composers to know what are the limits of the voices and not force them. Also, it's gonna serve us to avoid crossing melodic lines with each other, and also it's gonna help us to enrich the natural movement of the voices, uh, which with a good harmonic and melodic treatment, we're gonna move mostly in the comfortable range, but also moving away sometimes to a less comfortable range. So we're gonna create a contrast that will enrich the choral ensemble. At the left, we have the limits of the soprano, the alto, the tenor, and the bass. And in parentheses, well, the parentheses are like the extreme limits that we usually, or not usually, but sometimes we could sing, that range could sing. And at our right, the picture of the right, it's basically let's say the comfort zone of these ranges. So, for example, for soprano, we have the G, we have this. For the alto, we have, for the tenor, and for bass, those are let's say, the natural range of each voice. Now, we're gonna talk about chord positions. Chords can be spaced in closed or in open positions. The closed position is when the three tones above are so close to each other that no other tone of the chord could be introduced between two contiguous tones. And the open position is when the three tones above are separated and some other tone of the chord could be introduced between two contiguous tones. I'm gonna play just one of these examples, the picture that is above. For example, these are close positions. It doesn't matter the distance between the bass and the tenor. Those are close positions. Now I'm gonna play the open position. It's small, so I barely can see. That are the open position. So also one of the rules, it's like, well, not rules, it's not a rule, but a recommendation is to, in a four-part writing, to double the octave. It's like it's let's say it's better. You should consider to double the root or fundamental, then the fifth, and finally the third. This is due to the nature of the overtone series that Arnold Schoenberg explained before. Actually, in the first chapter, he explained this because the fundamental is the strongest one, then the fifth, and finally the third, which is what gives the chord its quality, and which will not be really need to be doubled. Now let's talk about the the figure bass. This, uh, this is a method which was used especially in the Baroque period and was a kind of writing based on numbers that was used especially to provide the keyboardist with a harmonic skeleton of the work. Um, these numbers represented the intervals between the bass, the fundamental, and the other tones of the chord. And the keyboardist could arrange the notes freely according to his criteria, always considering the needs of the melodic direction. For example, if you have the 753 right here, you have just a G. It, it will sound like this if you play like it's written. But because you have the third above the fundamental, then the fifth, then the seventh, right? But you can change. You can have first the fifth, then the third, then the seventh. This is another position. Or you could play the seventh, then the third, then the fifth. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play all the positions. Maybe you can hear the difference without talking. So those are the possibilities playing this figured bass. Basically, this is how the figured bass functions, and you can alter some of the notes, but that will be noted right there. So that's it. I came with some questions and ideas. Um, one of them, it's like, could the Baroque figured bass be compared with the jazz chord symbols, or even with the Hermeto Pascual's chordal notation? Um, can it be said that it is the same principle for improvisation in the arrangement of the chord voicings? Also, for me, it was interesting how he introduces us to the subject with a chord progression that origins from the melody. Because at the beginning of the treatise, Arnold Schoenberg says that he will approach this treatise in a purely harmonic, let's say, origin or a purely harmonic approach. So those are my questions and my let's say my ideas or my thoughts about this treatise. Oh, also, I found very interesting that Schoenberg, he's not only doing his reflections and comments about certain theoretical aspects or principles, but he has also left practical exercises to the student who wants to study and put into practice these harmonic concepts and apply them to his compositions. So it was great to have examples and exercises. So thank you very much.